I brushed the mud off my simple black suit as my brother Marcus stood over me, his expensive Italian leather shoes inches from my face at Dad's funeral. "Look at him crawling where he belongs," Marcus announced to our gathered family members. "Couldn't even afford a proper suit to bury Dad in." I remained silent as I carefully stood up, making sure not to get any mud on my worn briefcase. It contained the documents I'd need tomorrow, but they didn't need to know that yet. "You're an embarrassment," my sister Catherine added from beside Marcus. "Dad was right to cut you out of everything." The prestigious Hamilton law firm's senior partners stood awkwardly near the graveside, averting their eyes from the scene. They were here out of respect for Dad, their former managing partner. Marcus had already been announced as his successor, continuing the family legacy. "At least get a real job," Mom sighed, shaking her head. "Your father and I gave you every opportunity. Full ride to law school, guaranteed position at the firm. But you threw it all away to find yourself, and now look at you. Wearing a $100 suit to your own father's funeral." I maintained my calm expression as I always did. They had no idea I'd spent the last 5 years building my own legal empire, while working from a tiny office across town. Dad's death had activated the final phase of my plan. "I think it's best if you leave," Marcus declared, straightening his $5,000 suit. "We have important firm business to discuss with the partners. You know, actual lawyer things that matter." I nodded quietly. "Of course. I understand completely. And don't come crawling back asking for money," Catherine added. "The firm is family only now. Marcus is managing partner, and I'm head of litigation. There's no place for failures here." I picked up my mud-stained briefcase and turned to leave. Behind me I could hear Marcus already discussing tomorrow morning's critical partnership meeting, where he'd officially take control. What they didn't know was that I'd spent the past 5 years secretly acquiring controlling interest in the building that housed Hamilton Law through an obscure holding company. I'd also been buying up the firm's debt and establishing myself as a legal powerhouse under a different name. Tomorrow morning would change everything. The partnership meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. sharp. Marcus had invited every senior partner to witness his ascension to managing partner. I headed to my modest apartment above the small legal aid clinic, where I appeared to work. Inside, I carefully removed my muddy suit and changed into fresh clothes. The mud-stained briefcase had been for showed my real documents were safely stored in my office safe. I reviewed the paperwork one final time: deed to the building, controlling interest documentation, proof of my string of high-profile legal victories under my other professional identity, and the announcement of my firm's merger with Hamilton Law that would be revealed tomorrow. My phone buzzed with texts from Marcus and Catherine, mocking my pathetic departure from the funeral. I left them unread. They'd have plenty to say tomorrow. I spent the evening preparing for the morning meeting, ensuring every detail was perfect. The partners would all be there, eager to witness the family succession. They had no idea they'd be meeting their actual new boss. Looking out my window at the city lights, I thought about Dad. He'd always favored Marcus and Catherine, grooming them to take over while dismissing my different approach to law. He never knew I'd built something far bigger than Hamilton Law could ever be. Tomorrow would change everything, not out of revenge, but necessity. The firm needed new leadership to survive in today's legal landscape. Marcus would destroy it within a year with his outdated methods. I set my alarm for 6 a.m. and went to bed early. I wanted to be perfectly calm and composed for the morning's revelation. The partners would be gathering at 9 a.m., expecting Marcus's coronation as managing partner. Instead, they'd meet their firm's new owner and real managing partner. The look on my family's faces when they realized who actually controlled Hamilton Law would be quite something. But first, I needed sleep. Tomorrow would require perfect composure and calm as years of careful planning finally came to fruition. I arrived at Hamilton Law at 8:30 a.m., deliberately early. The security guard barely glanced at me as I entered through the side entrance, assuming I was just another low-level employee starting their day. The conference room on the top floor was already being prepared. Through the glass walls, I could see staff setting up coffee and pastries for the historic partnership meeting. Marcus had spared no expense to celebrate his moment. I settled into my small borrowed office down the hall, borrowed from a junior associate who was on vacation. The perfect vantage point to observe the arriving partners. At 8:45, they began filtering in, senior partners in $1,000 suits, greeting each other with forced smiles and subtle nods. Politics were everything in law firms like this. Catherine arrived at 8:50, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than my car. She was already practicing her congratulatory speech to Marcus. The new era of Hamilton law begins today, she announced to anyone within earshot. Finally, proper family leadership. I stayed out of sight, watching through the reflection in my borrowed office window. My phone buzzed, a text from my real office confirming everything was in place. At 8:55, Marcus made his grand entrance. He'd chosen his most expensive suit for the occasion, paired with a gold watch that probably cost more than most people's annual salary. "Good morning, everyone," he boomed, playing the role of benevolent leader. "Exciting day ahead. The future of Hamilton law is bright." The partners gathered around him, offering practiced congratulations. None of them particularly liked Marcus, but they assumed they needed to stay on his good side. Mom arrived last. At 8:59, she took her place at the head of the table, ready to formally announce Marcus as the new managing partner. The role should have gone to her after Dad's death, but Marcus had convinced her to step aside. "Shall we begin?" she asked, tapping her glass for attention. "We have important business to discuss." I checked my watch, 9 a.m. exactly, right on schedule. The conference room doors opened, and James Weber, the firm's longtime corporate counsel, entered. He wasn't supposed to be here. He worked from the downtown office. His presence made Marcus frown slightly. "Before we proceed," James announced, "there's an important matter we need to address." "This can wait," Marcus interrupted. "We have the partnership transition to handle first." James shook his head. "I'm afraid this can't wait. It concerns the ownership of both this building and the firm itself." The room went silent. Catherine's smug smile faltered slightly. "What are you talking about?" Mom demanded. "The building lease is secure, and the firm's ownership is clear." "Actually," James continued, checking his notes, "there have been some significant changes in the past 5 years that we need to discuss." Marcus stood up, his face reddening. "This is ridiculous. I'm managing partner now, and I demand we proceed with the planned agenda." "You're not managing partner yet," James corrected. "And given the circumstances, you won't be." Catherine laughed nervously. "This is absurd. Who else could possibly?" She stopped mid-sentence, as I stepped into the conference room doorway. Every head turned to stare at me, still in my modest suit from yesterday, minus the mud. "What is he doing here?" Marcus demanded. "Security." James held up his hand. "Actually, he has every right to be here. In fact, his presence is essential for what comes next." I remained silent, maintaining my calm expression as I had for years. The moment I'd planned for was finally here. "Essential?" Mom scoffed. "He's nothing. He doesn't even work here." James opened his briefcase and began removing documents. "That's not entirely accurate. In fact, there's quite a bit about your son that you don't know." Marcus started to speak, but James continued. "Before we proceed with any partnership changes, there are some ownership documents you all need to review." The partners exchanged confused looks. Catherine's face had lost some of its color. "What ownership documents?" she demanded. James smiled slightly. "Well, for the past 5 years, there have been some interesting developments regarding both this building and Hamilton law itself. Developments that will significantly impact today's meeting." I took my place at the conference room table, directly opposite Marcus. He glared at me with a mixture of confusion and anger. "This is a waste of time," he declared. "I'm managing partner now, and I demand—" Actually, James interrupted. "You might want to wait before making any demands. There's someone else you all need to meet first." The room fell silent again, as James turned to face me. The moment of revelation was seconds away. I maintained my composed expression, even as I saw the first flicker of worry cross Marcus's face. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. "Ladies and gentlemen," James began, "allow me to introduce Alexander Chen, founder of Chen Legal Group, and as of last month, majority owner of both this building and Hamilton law firm." The silence in the room became deafening. Marcus's face went from red to pale in seconds. "That's impossible," Catherine whispered. "He's nothing. He works at a legal aid clinic." James began distributing documents to the partners. "Mr. Chen has spent the past 5 years building one of the most successful litigation firms in the country, operating under a different name. His firm has won over $2 billion in settlements last year alone." Mom grabbed the papers with trembling hands. "This can't be real." "I assure you it is," James continued. Through a series of strategic acquisitions, Mr. Chen has acquired 67% ownership of Hamilton Law. He also owns this building through his holding company, Summit Properties. Marcus snatched the documents, his expensive watch catching the morning light. This is a joke, some kind of fraud. Actually, a new voice spoke up from the doorway. It's all perfectly legitimate. Sarah Martinez, the State Bar Association president, stepped into the room. Her presence caused several partners to straighten in their chairs. Mr. Chen's firm has the highest success rate in the state, she announced. His pro bono program is considered a model for the industry. We've been trying to convince him to join the bar's executive committee for months. Catherine slumped in her chair. But, he's just what? Another voice joined in. Michael Thompson, editor of Legal Weekly, entered with a photographer. The youngest lawyer to win 3 Supreme Court cases. The architect of the Jensen settlement that changed corporate law. Marcus was frantically flipping through the documents. But the family controls Hamilton Law. We always have. Not anymore, James stated firmly. Mr. Chen's acquisition was completed last month, following your father's passing. The papers have all been filed and verified. I finally spoke, keeping my voice calm and level. The firm needs modernization. New direction. Your methods are outdated, Marcus. You would have bankrupted Hamilton Law within a year. You can't do this. Marcus shouted, standing up so quickly his chair fell backward. We're family. Family. Michael Thompson raised an eyebrow. Isn't this the same family that was recorded shoving him into the mud at your father's funeral yesterday? The partners shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Several were already sliding their business cards across the table toward me. The merger announcement goes public in 1 hour, James continued. Chen Legal Group and Hamilton Law will combine to form the largest litigation firm in the region. Mr. Chen will serve as managing partner and CEO. Mom's hands were shaking so badly she dropped her coffee cup. But, the family legacy will be preserved, I assured her quietly. The Hamilton name stays, but the firm will be run properly now. Professionally. Sarah Martinez nodded approvingly. The Bar Association fully supports this merger. Mr. Chen's reputation for ethical practice and innovation is exactly what the industry needs. Marcus made one last desperate attempt. The other partners won't stand for this. Actually, senior partner David Williams spoke up. We've reviewed Mr. Chen's track record. His methods have produced better results than Hamilton Law has seen in decades. The partnership committee voted unanimously this morning to approve the merger. Catherine's designer suit suddenly looked wilted. But where? How did you get the money to? The Jensen settlement, Michael Thompson explained. Plus a series of brilliant corporate acquisitions. Mr. Chen's net worth exceeded your entire family's 3 years ago. You just never knew because he operated under different names. I stood up slowly, straightening my modest suit. The firm's pro bono program will be expanded. Merit-based hiring will replace nepotism. And yes, Marcus, the dress code will allow suits under $5,000. Several partners actually chuckled at that. Marcus looked like he might faint. Security, he tried one last time, has already been updated on the new ownership structure. James replied calmly. In fact, Mr. Chen's name is on their paychecks as of this morning. I picked up my briefcase, the same one they'd seen covered in mud yesterday. The partnership meeting will reconvene at 2 p.m. I suggest everyone take the morning to review the merger documents, especially the sections on new management structure. Sarah Martinez smiled. I look forward to working with you on the bar's executive committee, Mr. Chen. As I turned to leave, Marcus finally found his voice again. You planned this all along. I paused at the door. No, Marcus. You planned this. Every time you pushed me down, you pushed me to build something better. Every insult drove me to work harder. So really, I should thank you. The room remained silent as I stepped out. Through the glass walls, I could see Catherine crying, Mom staring blankly at the documents, and Marcus still standing by his fallen chair. The revolution was complete, and I hadn't had to raise my voice once.